Yo, what's good, everybody? It is your man Bevon here with We Create Music TV. You know what? I want to welcome all of you to the conversation. Tonight, we are talking specifically about music publishing. Yo, you think you know about music publishing, but tonight you are really, truly going to get the ins and outs of music publishing. Oh man, whew, I'm excited about this event. I'm excited for you to meet the panelists, to hear from the panelists, and to get this information, this knowledge, this wisdom that is going to help you to further your career in this music industry. So without further ado, so before we do that, let me kind of set some house rules, right? Some house cleaning or keeping rules. So for the very first thing, I want all of you to participate. I hope you got some questions that you want to ask. Of course, if you've seen any of our conversations previously, you know how we do these conversations. I pose a question, we talk about it, we give you the answers that you truly need. We're going to spend about a good 55 minutes together as a panel talking about music publishing, and then we're going to open it up to all of you to ask all the questions that you truly want to know. All right, so I'm expecting to see lots of comments in the comment section. Please save your questions to the end, right? To the end, and then we will throw them all up on the screen. We will try to get to as many questions as possible. If we're not able to get to all of the questions, once again, please forgive us for not being able to get to every single one, but we will try our best to get to as many as possible. All right, without further ado, let's meet our panelists. First up, ladies and gentlemen, we got my man, Prince Howard. He is the founder of Pacific Music Inc., and he is the CEO of Pacific Music Publishing. He is also the former director of publishing for Memphis Entertainment. He has worked with tons of people in this music industry. I could do a whole bunch of name drops. I'll let Prince do that if he so desires. But ladies and gentlemen, give a warm welcome to my man, Prince Howard.
Thank you.
Yes, good. Thank you, sir, for being here.
Most definitely. Thank you for having me.
Next, yes, sir. Next, we have multi-platinum, Grammy-nominated songwriter who has worked with tons of people. One of them happens to be my cousin, which I didn't tell her that, but one of them is my cousin, or was my cousin. So then she could figure out from there who it was. And so we just never had a chance to meet. So, but Tami Latrell, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, multi-platinum, Grammy-nominated songwriter who's worked with tons of individuals within this music industry. She is now the CEO of the Mezzo. I hope I said it right. I've been trying to think about it, how to pronounce it. The Mezzo agency, which is a music administration company. And I'm telling you, she is on her game about music publishing. I'm sure a lot of you know who Tami Latrell is. So ladies and gentlemen, give a warm welcome to Tami Latrell.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And last but not least, oh my gosh, y'all know this guy. He is a guru when it comes to music publishing. He is the CEO of the Graves firm, which is also a music publishing administration consulting for artists, producers, songwriters as well. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for my guy. Right now, if you go to his Instagram, you can see on his Instagram all the accolades that his clients have been creating within the top charts right now. But ladies and gentlemen, give it up for my guy, Lamont Graves. Yes. So I hope y'all ready. I see all these comments. We got people from Edmonton, Alberta. So drop where you are. So drop if you are here. Let us know where you're from. Really appreciate all of you being here. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into it. I think one of the things that I want to do with this conversation is kind of just set the foundation from the very beginning. So this is a very basic question, but I think it's going to help people to understand what we're going to talk about tonight. which is what really is music publishing? So whoever wants to take it, whoever wants to start it, what really is music publishing?
I'll chime in.
I'm itching.
Yeah, yeah.
What did you say, Lamont?
Ladies first.
No, I said
Ladies first.
I said my I was itching to answer that, but go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, good. Nah, go ahead. You got it. You got it. Go ahead.
Well, I will go first. You know, the technical term, music publishing is more so of like the business of making money as a songwriter or a producer or copyright holder. There is a lot of intricacies that go into the process, but basically, any money that's generated from the usage of your work as a songwriter or producer composer, any money, any royalties that are generated pretty much so for the commercial use of your record, whether it's streamed, downloaded, licensed, that all of that money that comes in is music publishing. That is the publishing pot, from your work being actually commercially used and licensed. In layman terms, y'all, because I can give y'all some technical definitions to break it all down and make it as easy as
Right.
possible. The money that's being made off of the commercial use of the work. And that money is owed to the songwriter, the producer, the composer, the publisher.
Exactly.
Exactly. Exactly. So,
Anybody else in here?
anybody else, Prince, Lamont?
I think she summed it up really, really well. I mean, anytime you make a beat, anytime you write a song, if you make a beat, a lot of producers don't know that they are technically considered composers. This goes back to the days of guys like Mozart, Beethoven, when they used to
Mhm.
actually write music on sheet music. And a
Right.
lot of producers, it's tough for them to be able to understand what it is because a lot of them don't actually write sheet music or actually write music. But pretty much
Hmm.
anytime you create music, you're going to get your two copyrights, one of those being composition. And pretty much composition is the written side of music. That's basically music publishing. And that's where songwriters come in. That's why when you guys get placements, you'll see a producer listed as a songwriter. And that's because you're technically considered a composer writer.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right.
Definitely. And definitely, just to piggyback on what Tammy said and Lamont just said, this is really your intellectual property. It's your creative uh, juices that are being that are creating this. So, it's just like somebody creating a patent, and being able to trademark something. This is your stamp, but it's related to music. So you have to treat it as such, and that's why it's so lucrative and fought over. You know what I'm saying, when we get to that part of it. So definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think that's important that that everybody has an understanding and a foundational basis of what really is music publishing. Because most people truly, they like I said, they think they really know what it is. They really don't, and they're really missing out on so much when it comes to the publishing that is owed to them. And so I think setting that foundation is perfect. And yes, I do want to get into a little bit later. I have questions about some of the terminology when it comes to music publishing and all that as well, because I think that's something that people need to know is when they start to see those phrases, those terminology, what does it truly mean in the context of music publishing? So we'll get into that a little bit later. But Lamont started talking about my next question. So, uh, so we all know that every song has two sides to it when it comes to copyrights, right? Uh, we have the composition and the recording. So, what really is the differences between the two, and why should we really understand what those differences are from the composition and the recording?
Well, that's a really good question. Well, when you have a sound recording, basically it's something that you can hear. And when you have a composition, it's basically something that could be written. Now, every time you create a song, whether it is a actual composition or recording, and this is really, I'm really speaking to the producer community here because this is something they often confuse. For pretty much every song that is created, you're going to automatically generate these two copyrights. Especially if you have a recording that, let's say you're making a beat on FL Studio and you export that track on FL Studio, you got a sound of the beat. You can hear it. That can be copyright. But also there's their other side to it, which is the composition, which is the written form of music. Now also you have songwriters that actually might go into a studio with an artist and they actually might write a song, but they may not ever sing that song, you know. So they're in there, they're pinning it down. The artist is in there vibing with them, and the artist goes in the booth, they sing the song, they got the track from the producer, boom, you got a sound recording. The artist's vocal and their voice on that actual beat is the recording, and then the actual the writing piece where the producer comes in and they compose, and where the songwriter comes in and they're writing down the lyrics, that's the composition. So both of those things are separate, but it's almost like a pizza, right? So you go to Papa
Mm,
John's or some type of pizza company, right? You get a pizza pie. One half might be pepperoni, one half might be mushroom, but it's still a pizza at the end of the day. Except for that one half is going to be the mushroom side, the other half is going to be the pepperoni side, but they're separate. You know, you got some people
mm.
that prefer pepperonis, and you got some people that prefer mushrooms. But at the end of the day, it's still a pizza. You know, it's still a part of the music business.
Yeah, that's what's up. And I had Papa John's today too, so I
Oh,
like
good,
that. I like that analogy right there.
good.
Yeah, the cheesy stuffed crust too. That's right.
You're
So
Yeah,
funny.
that's
yeah.
fine. Fine. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. You know, I think understanding the difference between the composition and the recording is critical. And so let's talk about this then, right? So Lamont, you gave a very thorough answer. So what makes up the composition and the recording when it comes to publishing? So how do people get paid off for the composition, and how do people get paid off the recording?
So I can hop in and answer that, or I can let
Yeah,
somebody else
go ahead.
answer.
I can
Like
unpack that.
Tammy's like,
so pretty
Yeah,
much
yeah,
you
yeah.
got so pretty much you got the recording, right? And the recording would not exist without the composition. Now, since the composition makes the recording possible because all those notes and melodies and those written lyrics make it possible for somebody to sing it, anytime a copy of that song is sold, is something is due to the actual songwriters of the song, which ends
Mhm.
up becoming the composers, aka the producers. Hey, technically, producers are not. It's a producers are really they help out with the master, but for the most part, it's just a term that's it's became synonymous with music publishing. But pretty much what ends up happening is that those songs would not exist without that side of the music. So anytime a version of that song is played on the radio, anytime a copy of it is sold, there's some type of compensation due to the songwriters, and that's pretty much where the producers and pretty much the songwriters, the author of lyrics come in, and that's how they get compensated. So every time a copy is made, you're compensated. So if you put it in perspective of, let's say, the streaming industry now, I mean, this is how the music business is making tons of money. So all those
mm,
streams are going to pay something to the actual songwriters on an actual track. Now, keep in mind, a lot of the big records that are on the radio now, and a lot of stuff on the Hot 100, a lot of that stuff is from young producers who might be 18, 19 years old, and they don't know anything about this. So, they might end up on number 10 on the Hot 100, and their song is generating millions and millions of transactions worldwide, but they don't even know that they're considered a composer writer, and they have no idea how to go about getting it. And then the
Yep.
artists, they're performing the song. They might go on tour. They might make $2 million in a month off of it. But the producer, they have to wait for the composition business, aka the publishing business, to be able to pay them out. So,
And the label. The label
And the
mm,
also
label
has a
on
responsibility
royalty side.
on the sound recording side. The label has a responsibility. So if anybody is on this panel watching us, and you are an indie label, you do have a responsibility to pay out publishing owed to songwriters and producers for the works that you are
yeah,
actually, putting out and releasing, distributing. So
yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to throw that in to make sure that they
mm-hmm.
understand the correlation between the sound recording and the composition, but there still is a responsibility that lies on the sound recording side to make sure that the producers and songwriters get paid also.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yep.
Right. And I like to just jump in because a lot of times, because there's no producer agreements in place that outline the the royalty point that a producer will get. We just have split sheets. That's a breakdown in the payment system from the labels. And so a lot of people now are going in and just doing split sheets instead of the of having correct
Producer.
agreements in place.
Mhm.
Producer agree to outline what they're getting. So, that's another very important part to piggyback off of Tammy, what she's saying on how the labels will pay out. and a lot of these independent labels aren't set up structurally to be able to account correctly to the producers. So uh, there's a lot that needs to be done, but I think we're moving in the right direction. If we can just start getting producer agreements along with split sheets and make sure
Mm,
that's in there, I think we'll cancel a lot of problems. You know,
hmm.
because independents are running the game right now. You know,
Yes.
let's make no about it. So
Yeah, and that's really good because we've had even with a few of my clients where I have producers who have not received producer agreements yet the song is, was one of the biggest records last year or one of the biggest records, within the last couple of years that, topped the charts and had cajillions of streams, but they weren't able to take advantage of being able to get paid on the master side through Sound Exchange because there was no
Yeah.
producer agreement.
Mm.
And so, we've had to, chase down the labels or the contacts there to make sure that they get the producer fees. Otherwise, my company that works on behalf of my clients will file a dispute and hold up the digital streaming royalties on the master side to get the label to, push forward with making sure they take care of the producers. Because, like Lamont said, if it was not for the songwriter or the producer, the record label would not have anything to release and distribute. So, we're always really big on making sure we protect our songwriters and producers and making sure, especially the producers, that they get the agreements that include their points, that include their LODs, that also include, of course, the publishing split all in one doc. That way, once the deal is done, we can move on and do our job as admins to make sure everything is registered properly and everybody gets paid.
Mm.
She told nothing but
Facts.
facts there.
I'm saying
yes,
the whole.
The
I'm like
biggest, the
facts.
biggest of fact, the biggest of facts. She just outlined for you guys. That's
Hmm.
100% true. 100% true.
exactly.
Because when you sit back and you think about it, most people think that split sheets cool. I did a split sheet. I'm covered, right? I mean, and split sheets are critical. Like
Very.
they're very critical, but most people just stop there,
Yep.
and that's kind of why if I
Exactly.
got a split sheet, I'm covered.
Well, for
Yeah.
songwriters, it usually is that way, right? Because the songwriter is contributing their writing, their composition of
Hmm.
lyrics with the producer. The producer, on the other hand, has a little bit more of, they have more work to do, being that they are the ones that's negotiating, the actual work for
Hmm.
hire, transitioning over, receiving an advance payment for the usage for the label. So once the label is able to pay the producer, whether the producer takes care of the songwriter or not, that's a whole nother discussion for another day. But once the producer is paid their advance on their royalties and they receive that producer agreement, it should also include the splits that include the songwriters as well that contributed. So it should be full splits in there because you have
Exactly.
record labels that have their publishing departments in that will go ahead and make sure that all that information is documented. But the split sheet itself is important for the songwriter who did not contribute to the music because that is their way of making sure that they get paid, whether they have an admin or not.
Mm.
So, the split sheet is to me just as valuable to the songwriter as it is to the producer who needs to have, their agreement that is listing out everything in full, because it by far is the way you get paid. It's the way you're able to exercise your right to get paid. You know,
Absolutely.
so
Definitely.
I think
I
it's,
got one
it's
thing to add on top of that, and this is for the producers that like to sample. So for you guys that like to sample and you get all your publishing ate up, you're either gonna eat off the advance or you're gonna eat off those producer points, you're gonna eat off a sound exchange. And that's where you're gonna really make your money because by that time you might get left with maybe 5% of the publishing. Sometimes I've seen four people split 5%. So then at that point your 3% or your 4% on that master is going to be how you make your money. So it's also important, for you guys to understand the difference between a producer agreement and a split sheet because like Tammy said, like Prince said, that is only for the songwriters, which you are. But since you're really, really, really embedded in that master, since you made that instrumental and you're licensing that master to the label, and you're going to get a piece of that royalty from the artist, that's going to be how you make a good deal of money too. So it's I wouldn't if you got a hit record and you got 50%, obviously you're going to make a killing in publishing. But if you're a producer
No,
and you're sampling and you got those points, that's going to be how you make your money. So it is definitely important for you guys to understand the difference between the two.
Great point.
definitely.
Yep.
Great point.
Sorry, I'm over here typing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I I just cleared two or three samples on some records that's about to come out on my client, and
So,
these samples, you know, if you left, I was so happy to get a 65% on the publishing rights and still have 35 left on a big record now,
Hmm.
and so
wow.
we were left with about, like, it's a SOS record, which is crazy, and the
What?
record,
What?
and we got like, and we were able to come away with like 35% to split between, the
Oh, that's
producer
awesome.
and songwriter.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Amazing.
man. And then on another record, I don't know, that one might be 75 or 80. But if I can get 20% on every sample, I'm
Oh
happy.
yeah. Oh yeah. You
Right.
want?
That's the
Yeah.
blessing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. For sure. And I
Right.
tell that to the producers too. I tell that to the producer. I'm like, if you can walk away with like a 15, 20, 30%, you can still win because if a sync license comes in and that sync license is 100K and you got 15%, you're still gonna walk away with some money. You know what I mean? So that he makes a really good point about that, especially with the samples. And definitely you want to have people on your team that can negotiate this stuff, especially a great attorney that can get you a good a good percentage on your after the sample is cleared and everything else comes in. You're definitely going to want that type of percentage because you can still make money off the record.
Hmm. Okay, so let me ask you this then. Uh, is it just the samples, or is it off of? Can it also be applied to phrases that people use in their music that has been used by other
Oh yeah. Oh
artists?
yeah.
And and,
Oh
and the
yeah.
reason and the reason why I'm asking is right is because the whole Cisco using "Living La Vida Loca" in "Thong Song," right? Because Tim Kelly did a whole video talking about this
Mm-hmm.
and how Max Martin owns more of the "Thong Song" than they do because
Oh
him
yeah.
and Ricky Martin because of that phrase,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
it wasn't cleared.
I was about to say, you got to remember, you missed the point. It wasn't
It
clear
wasn't
prior
cleared
to.
Clear.
prior. That's
That's
right.
the main
Part two.
thing. So, like, at the end of the day, they are going to bring the hammer when
Mm,
you
Yep.
Right.
violate and infringe on their rights without getting permission
that's right.
first. I think,
Exactly.
yeah, making a phone call, putting in your request to the publishers. If you don't have an admin like us to work on your behalf, to reach out to these publishers and to reach out to the labels where the original work that you're sampling was released. However you make contact, the goal is to not be disrespectful to their craft. Just like you wouldn't want them being disrespectful to yours, right? You wouldn't want someone just releasing your stuff, sampling it, and putting in their
That's right.
song, and then it blows up and become a huge success, and you didn't even get a notice about it. No one contacted you that they were going to be infringing on your rights, and that's exactly what it is. It's infringement. So, the story itself was a bad one. However, that let that
Right.
be a lesson. Let that be a lesson learned that be professional and follow
and
protocol. And if you're using something that you don't own the rights to, go about it the right way. Get some help to be able to reach out to the original owners and, of course, the owners of the master to be able to, clear the record, depending on what type of
Hmm.
sample it is.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the main thing, is that's why they got hit so hard, is because they didn't reach out prior to
Oh
the song.
yeah.
fire.
Oh yeah. If you do it, if that song starts
Yeah.
blowing up and you sampled it, oh man, they're gonna get you. They're gonna get you big time. You
Hmm.
might be lucky to walk away with 10% after that. Because by that time the song has probably generated so much money that if they get 80% of the publishing, hey, they might be sitting on 300, 400, 500, almost $1 million, all depending on where it is on the charts. So it
Right.
is very, very important that you guys understand that. And in terms of like the phrases and everything, if you use a popular phrase from a popular song, there definitely needs to be some type of clearance involved with that. Because at the end of the day, think about it. That's somebody else's written composition that you're taking a piece of. So you may not think nothing of
Right.
it, but at the end of the day, that composition or that phrase is made up of that song and that composition. So you got to clear. Anytime you got composition, written lyrics, you're interpolating and stuff like that, you got to clear it with the original owners of the copyrights.
That's right.
Right. Got to clear.
Gotta
I
clear it.
told I have a client right now. He's an independent artist. He's using a sample. I said we gotta wait till it finishes clearing, finish the process because at the end of the day, I don't want uh, your works to be taken down. I don't want anything to happen, because I work on the artist side in terms of consulting as well. So I was like, look, we got to get a sample. So he's smart enough to know
Mm-hmm.
got the sample clearance company on and got everything together. He's like, okay, we'll wait. I said, that's exactly what you need to do because these stories that you're talking about, Tim Kelly, I'm partnered with him. He's told me this story. And this thing, when he handed it over to the label, they were like, we got to go now. Well, when you got to go now and take it out of their hand, now they're in, now they're susceptible to what we just talked about percentages, all of that, And then there's some rights holders that take everything. They don't care whether you, come before or after. I remember when Champion came out with Kanye West, Brian All Day Miller, who was the producer. I said Steely Dan is going to take all 100% of this, and they did on the composition side. So that's just because that's how they are, and they don't clear their samples a lot.
Mm.
Montel Jordan, I had a sample with him from. He wrote a record for Deborah Cox that was huge, and we went through, and he said, "No, I cannot clear this because I'm a Christian now, and none of my works
Mm-hmm.
now would be." So we got these types of things that. So when you sample, just know these are the type of hurdles that you run through. Mind you, because it's a something people recognize, it can be a hit, but these are the hurdles.
That's right. Yeah,
Yep.
wow, that was super thorough. I greatly appreciate that because I know even in the producer community, a lot of times they say, well, I'll use the sample, but I'll change it up, right? I'll run it through FL Studio and kind of put some, super effects on it where you can't really tell what it truly is. But they're gonna find out. They right? There's,
Man.
you're not gonna be able to hide it. They're gonna
Listen.
find out.
Yeah, they definitely will. We had a song that got sampled by a major artist that one of my producers he made the track, and they sent it to us first to hear it during the clearance process, and it was so minute, like I wouldn't expect the average person to be able to hear it. You had to really really listen for it, but they still came through and they still cleared the sample because they just did not want to run into any issues in terms of the clearances and us coming back later and saying, oh, you used our works, and now they got to give up 90% of the publishing.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very very much important. And then also you got like Prince was saying, sometimes artists they don't like certain other artists using their records and sampling them because it might have curse words in there, it
Right.
might have all types of suggestive lyrics, and they're like, no,
Right.
I'm not clearing this. And then if they do, like you said, he's like, oh, we want 100% of this. So definitely think about those things
Right.
as you do sample.
Right.
And
Right.
I see. And I just want to interject quickly too. Interpolations.
Right.
That's still sampling. It's still considered sampling. One of my producers who worked with on a big record, a huge record, and the interpolation was from a tribe called Quest, and
Mm-hmm.
the interpolation they took about I think 75 to 80% of the record, even on the interpolation. So be mindful of that too as well, because it's still sampling something in a song that
Mm-hmm.
is noticeable to make that record move the way it needs to move in terms of the public. So, be careful of that too, because they can
Right.
still, claim on that as well.
That's right.
Still got to clear it.
Still got to clear it. Still got to, even if it's interpolation, even if it's a sample. I mean, if it's something that is being used from another song, you still got to clear it. I mean, that's
Exactly.
just, I would say clear. If you're using something that's not yours and it's from clear it no matter what. Just go through that process. It'll save you all the headaches in the world. Yeah, just get it cleared. That's the biggest thing. Uh, but that's I know
Exactly.
producers. I know producers who don't like to get things cleared. And they're like, nah, I don't want to get that cleared. Like, and it's they'll say it's not my responsibility. I'm the producer. I don't get it. If the artist wants to use it, they got to go through the process. So I'm gonna use whatever samples I want to use, and then if they want to get it cleared, they'll go get it cleared.
Right.
It's like,
And
It
the thing
depends on the
about
situation. It depends on the
mm,
yeah, it
situation.
depends on
I'm gonna
yeah.
let I'm gonna let I'm
Now,
gonna let Prince talk, but yeah, I'm pretty
now,
sure you're gonna say exactly what I'm about to say.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What I believe is I believe that producers would make more money if they would clear their samples before time, and would make more on the front, on the front end producer fee. But not every producer has that type of capital sitting around to clear records, so they leave it to the record company because they have the money. Now, mind you, I have two samples that have been cleared, and I think we paid 2,500 for one, another one 7,400. You know what I'm saying? So the numbers aren't astronomical, but
right.
if you do it beforehand, but if you can set aside capital for clearances, I believe producers will make a lot more money on their production fees and will already set the publishing as far as the percentages once the artist gets it and once the writers are on it and once it's presented to the label. So, and labels love to deal with stuff that's already done. Believe me,
Mm.
Yeah.
they don't want to do a lot of work. So if you come to the table and say, "Look, I got this clear. Here go the paperwork. Here's this, this, and this." Like I got two or three records with features. They're all clear. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So
Mhm.
they're gonna be like, "Oh, that's wonderful. Here, cut the deal. Let's go." So
Yep.
Right.
that's another way to look at it from that side of the coin.
Mm.
Yeah.
Good. Good. So let's switch gears for a moment. So what are some of the myths or misunderstandings when it comes to music publishing? So what are some of the myths or misunderstandings when it comes to
All right, I
music
got one right
publishing?
Yeah.
now. I got
Go
one right
ahead.
now. I'm gonna tell you the number one myth is sign up with ASCAP and BMI, and that you get all your publishing money. You're gonna be rich
Thank you.
tomorrow.
I'm
Your
done.
song is number one on the Hot 100. It's all good. Let me just get my BMI account and I'm good to go. That's the biggest myth. There's so many companies licensing and paying money that I can't even write them all down on a piece of paper because
Exactly.
Right.
it'll be 30 pages long. It wouldn't even be 30 pages long. It'd be like one of them old scrolls from the medieval times that they would write documents on. That's how long it would be.
Wow.
So it's not just ASCAP and BMI. That's the biggest myth
No.
I would say.
Mm.
Yes.
Exactly.
I cannot tell you how many times we do our music administrators, we do free music business assessments for our clients. Anybody is welcome to sign up. And we work with producers and songwriters at any stage of their career. They could be brand new to the business or they could be established and just need support. Well, that is the common answer to, well, do you have you been collecting any money off of your placements? And they were like, well, I got to be in my account or I got an ASCAP account. And it's like, okay, that's just performance royalties, right? Like,
Right.
and they're
You
like,
know that's
oh,
right.
how can I help you? And
Yeah.
it's like, no, you have tons of money out there that has
Yep.
not been collected. That is so true. That is the number one
Yep.
issue and myth
Yep.
and rumor, that all you need is a BMI or an ASCAP account.
Yep.
Mm. Mm.
Yep.
Oh, also another myth. Oh, I just need my writer side. I don't need to set up a publishing entity to collect when I set up my ASCAP and BMI. You
No.
know how many writers and producers do not have publishing companies? And that's the part when you split that money out in your ASCAP and BMI, when you split your percentages out, that's the part that the publishing companies partner
Yep.
with to do your publishing deals.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So there's a lot of myth with that too. And when I tell people that, they run and go and set up a publishing company. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Mm.
They're
Yeah.
like, okay.
Definitely. I want to back
Hmm.
up
And,
off of
and
that. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. My bad.
yeah, oh no, and then one last thing, and just an example of that, I've done approximately in my career probably about 90 publishing deals. Those publishing deals, I could say about 30 to 40% of it, we had to set up a publishing company for those clients to do a publishing deal with them. And
Mm-hmm.
that
Yep.
shouldn't be. That should be part of the basic business of you as a producer and creative, as you know, a songwriter, to do that. And but that's knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So the more we have these type of discussions, I think we'll see more and more it get better. So yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead,
yeah. I mean,
Lamont. I'm sorry.
it's
Yeah.
no, it's all good. I was gonna say, to back up off what Prince said, it's like literally, it's the equivalent of you working 80 hours a work week and you only get paid for like 20 hours. So imagine you working 80 hours, backbreaking labor, and then your check comes, you only get paid for 20% of it. That's what happens when you're just using ASCAP and BMI to try to collect all your money in publishing when it's not written half of what you're supposed to get paid, especially now when you got streaming mechanicals and all these companies like Music Reports, and then you got companies in other territories that are collecting
Mm-hmm.
mechanicals for
You
you,
gotta have
and then you might
self-publishing.
your song. Yeah, your song. I mean, your song might be more popular in Japan than it is in the United States, and you might have
Exactly.
$10,000, $15,000 over there, and just because you got a BMI account, you're not seeing
Mm,
everything that's due to you.
mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's
And
right.
then ASCAP. So two things. BMI will couple your publishing. If you're a writer, they will couple all of your publishing into your writer's account. ASCAP doesn't do that. So if you're affiliated with ASCAP and you're set up as a writer, but you don't have a publishing company, you're not receiving any of your publishing royalties. So we, especially with our
Right.
ASCAP writers, we have to make sure, like, look, we are not doing a deal with your writer's account. We're doing a deal with your publishing entity. So if you don't have that, then we need to set that up first. And that's usually the beginning stage of our admin company going in to set them up properly, is to make sure that they have those publishing companies set up. And then from there, we're able to, start registering the work and collecting on their behalf. Sometimes we do, depending on the deal, we will collect the full amount, but sometimes we may only collect the percentage, based off of what our contract terms agreed upon. So it just all depends, but definitely 100% agree with Prince on making sure that if you are a songwriter producer and you are looking to get a publishing deal down the line, you definitely need to have your own publishing company set up.
Team BMI. Team BMI. Oh man, yes, yes. So you touched on two. So let me go back and ask: are there any other myths or misunderstandings? Because I want to touch on two things that was said.
I would say another myth is that Sound Exchange is for songwriters and producers.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's a good
You
one.
know, like being able
Yeah.
to receive Sound Exchange royalties is if you're a songwriter or a producer, that's a privilege. It's not something that you automatically get because you're a composer, because Sound Exchange does not pay publishing. They pay digital streaming royalties on the master, on the sound recording. So that
Exactly.
means that when you do get a letter of direction that's approved by the artists themselves,
That's a blessing.
yeah, that's a blessing. They have to sign off, or the authorized signatory has to sign off on that letter of direction, and you're getting a portion of their performance royalties
Yeah,
to be, deposited into your account. So
exactly.
that alone is, a myth too, because sometimes producers or songwriters will come in to us and say, well, I think I'm supposed to be getting paid from Sound Exchange. I got this placement and I wrote this and I wrote that. And I was like, well, where's your letter of direction? Where's your LOD from the artist? And they're like, well, I didn't know I needed one. you know I thought, Sound Exchange pays publishing. And I'm like, no, those royalties are performance royalties on the master. That's not
Yeah.
considered publishing. You will be able to partake in receiving those royalties if it is approved by by the artist, the performer, or if they have someone like an authorized signatory to sign off on your behalf. That's not something the label
Hmm.
can issue you. That has to
Right.
come from the performer, from Sound Exchange.
Exactly. And I want to say one last thing about that about Sound Exchange. Sound Exchange, for you producers, this is why I'm always telling producers do this. Self-release instrumental albums. You become an artist and you become a rights owner. Now you
Yeah,
don't need a letter of direction
on both
to get
sides.
paid
Yeah.
from on both sides. You can get paid as a performer and you can get paid as a rights owner. We got guys that we had consultations with in meditation music, and their stuff goes crazy on Spotify. They get millions of streams on Spotify, and because they get millions of streams on Spotify, one of them this pay period today from Sound Exchange got a check for over $11,000 as a performer for meditation music. So it's not you're not just a producer getting paid publishing. also focus on self-releasing your own sound recordings as well,
Yes,
because
yes.
you can get paid from this stuff.
Producers have so much
Exactly.
more advantage
Exactly.
compared
And
Yeah,
and
right.
yeah.
yeah, I definitely, because I still manage producers and songwriters. And one of my clients, Cassius J, he did a trap jazz album. He's done a couple of them. He's done,
Wow.
collaboration with Pee Wee Longway. He has 60 million streams as an artist, and
Mm.
so and now we're getting ready to do an R&B compilation album that I'm doing the deal on. But he's an artist, you know what I'm saying? He's considered an artist, which he is, you know. And just to piggyback off of what Lamont just said, you can make so much more money doing different things because you're able to. You have the music, you know what I'm saying? Which is
Mm-hmm.
the beginning of what we do. Without music, we don't have any of the business. So being able to exploit that and be able to put it in context and put it in a way where you can make money is very, very important.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I'll say
Man.
another myth too, something else that I thought about. A lot of songwriters and producers, they if they don't know and they haven't asked the question, maybe they didn't know to ask, but some composers actually think that the record label or the indie label is always going to register their songs for them.
Oh yeah, yeah. Good point. Really good
And
point.
that is not the case.
Good
You
point.
know,
Great point.
it's
You
not
are
guaranteed.
responsible.
You have to be solely responsible, which is why it's so important to get your splits and everything lined out in the beginning, because just in case somebody forgets and they don't follow through and register your publishing, you need to make sure that your songs are registered on your side. Even if you don't even have everybody's information, you can always make sure that you include your split registration, and then call BMI, call ASCAP, and let them know what the situation is. As long as you have proof that you are a participating party on that work, they'll be able to merge and find the
Yup.
loopholes. There
Yup.
have been
Yup.
times where we had a placement with a major artist earlier this year for one of my newer signees. He's a producer, but the major label, they weren't a part of the negotiation of the splits. They just received the information and they know they have an artist that signed and they had a sample that had to be clear, but they left our guy off in addition to the other producer. So
Mm.
we had to step in. I met with the other producer's attorney. She was down here from LA, and I sat with her and just explained to her what we do. And she was like, well, girl, this is not my area. Can you take care of this and make sure it's registered properly? So we went through the proper steps
Mhm.
as an administration company. Of course, we were working on behalf of our client to make sure he got paid. But in addition to that, we were able to make sure that the other producer involved as well was included on that record because yeah, Atlantic didn't care.
Mm.
So
Nope.
That's right. That's right. So thank you very much for
No,
that.
they
So
don't.
right. So there's two things I want to touch on what has been mentioned. The first one is, and this is a question I had anyway, but I'm glad you started to talk about it. What are retroactive royalties, and what happens if they remain uncollected?
Oh man. Well, retroactive royalties are pretty much
Oh,
royalties
yeah.
that were generated in a specific time period. You didn't register the song to be able to put your stamp on it as a copyright owner and to be able to start the collection process. So pretty much they sit out there, all depending on who the licensee of those royalties are. They just sit there uncollected. And if they don't go if they go uncollected for a specific period of time, they go into something called the black box,
Black
which is
box.
basically this big giant magical black box where all your royalties go at. And if you don't collect them, then pretty much they get distributed to the major publishers based on their market share. So
Mm.
yeah,
you basically lose out on tens of thousands or
Yes.
potentially billions of dollars. And I've had clients come to me, legends in the business. They'll come to me and they'll have a song from 2000 that was like 4 or 5 times platinum, and they're like, Lamont, can I recover this? And I'm like, I gotta keep it real. The farthest you might be able to get back on this
No.
is 2-3 years, if that. You know
That's
what I
right.
mean? But everything else from that point forward, is pretty much lost
That's
in the
it.
black box.
Yeah.
that's it.
That's it. Prince,
That's it.
were you gonna say
And
something,
and
Prince?
people and yeah, yes, and people need to look at the new Music Modernization Act, which outline, which is a long thing, but there's certain points in there that are very important.
You kind of Prince is kind of frozen.
Points to what Lamont just, all of that. Yeah, I'm frozen. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you're frozen,
Seems like
Prince.
everybody's frozen. Hey,
Hmm.
should I come back out and come in?
Yeah, you can try that, and you'll come right back into the spot that you're in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna do that right quick.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
Yeah. So that's why I asked that question because you started talking about it. What happens if they remain uncollected? Where does it go? Right. So it
Yeah,
goes into that. It goes into that magical black box that
yeah.
most people don't know, and they don't know that it goes back to the majors and it gets put back into that whole market share and distributed back to
Yeah.
some of those major artists.
Right, and it happens a lot. It happens a lot with, like I said, a lot of artists that were, they had big careers in the 2000s. They had big careers in the 90s, and they didn't know much about. It wasn't as nowhere as much education on music publishing as it is now. Back
Right.
during that time, and they were making a lot of money performing. So, they didn't. A lot of those guys end up signing record deals where the record company might have had an arm in publishing, and then now their publishing is locked in, with that record company. So oftentimes, and then sometimes they didn't have that. So what ended up happening is, they just didn't collect it. And then now with all this education about music publishing being out on the internet, now they're like, wow, I could have missed out on this, or wow, I didn't get paid that. And sometimes people just educate themselves a lot later in life, especially as their careers tend to, come down a little bit. And they're like, well, I know that song was a hit. I should be getting paid off of it. But, by the time they get to it, yeah, there's still going to be some money generated. But the amount of money that it generated when it came out in a specific time period, it might be tough to be able to even get paid a single cent of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I'm back. I'm back. I'm
Yes,
moving.
sir. Welcome back, Prince. So here's the other question that I have because you started talking about it, uh, about global music publishing, right, and royalty collection. So how does that work? So what if I do, and I think Lamont, you started to talk about, what if I have a song that blows up in Germany? How do I get paid off of that if I'm only signed up with ASCAP and BMI?
Well, you would need. I mean, you could try to affiliate with the companies overseas that can help you get paid, but you might end up spending a lot of money and have a lot of resources. So the best thing you can do is have some type of administrator that already has the resources around the world. They might have an office in that specific country, or I'm not really big fan of sub publishing, but they might have a sub publisher in that territory that they have a deal with to be able to collect your money in that territory. And the thing about it is that you got so many different genres of music, and music is listened to in so many different ways around the world. Where a song may not be as popular in the United States, like I said earlier, but it might be much more popular in another territory. So what you're going to want is some type of administrative authority or some type of company that has the ability to be able to collect those royalties in that territory. Otherwise, you're going to have to try to do your research yourself, and you can end up missing out on a good deal of money just trying to do that on your own. When you have a company that has already put the time, effort, and resources to be able to figure it out, it's best, in my opinion, to be. I'm not saying don't educate yourself on these different territories and the companies that are responsible for collecting it, but oftentimes you're not going to know. And when you're just getting started, what I found is that it's a lot easier just to partner up with an admin that has the experience to be able to collect it.
Mhm.
Right. That's right.
It takes a lot of time establishing those relationships. Our company, when we initially started, we had a third party that was doing a lot of our admin for us, but we realized that a lot of the work was not being done. And
Mm.
so my office was the one actually doing all of the work, the catalog management, the songs registrations, and just making sure all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed for our catalog. So I was like, it's no point of me being with a third party admin. We can admin ourselves. And I just had to establish relationships in several territories. And it took time. I mean, we literally just inked our last sub publisher 2 weeks ago for South America. And it's really hard to collect from that market, as it is in Asia as well. So you just have to continue to build the relationships and network, and of course, use the resources that we have, from just our own grassroots research. But it definitely is advantageous once you have solidified whether you're going to go with the sub publisher or you go with an actual admin who has those relationships to be able to collect for you. It just saves you so much time. And like Lamont said, like I've had records that have done so well overseas that no one even took the time to even listen to in the States. But in Germany, it's like the number one hit, you know? And
That's
so
right.
thankfully, we were able to recover that for our clients and make sure that, they're making money worldwide, not just here domestically.
Hmm. And that's money they miss. That's money they're missing out on. And so that's why it's
Exactly.
important. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why it's important that you understand how to be registered appropriately, how to get connected with a publisher administration organization that can help you collect those, because it is tough, right? I mean, you have to build those relationships, and I don't know who has all that time as an artist, as a producer, to actually build those and establish those relationships with all of those different CMOs all across the
Yep.
right, all across the world.
Word
Nobody
up.
has that, right? Who has
Yeah.
that ability to do that?
Yeah.
So speaking of that, speaking of like,
Can I
see,
say one
yeah,
last
go
thing about
ahead.
that?
Of course.
Definitely get with a company, an admin company that you can trust and you can grow with and build with and have good relationships. Because one of the big mistakes that a lot of guys make is they just sign some deal and they think that the placements is going to be coming in. Ask about their sync department, because
Yeah.
that's going to be how you make a lot of money. If you got an
Mm,
admin or a co-pub or something and they got a very strong sync department, that's going to be how you recoup through your deal for the most part.
Mhm.
It's also going to be how you build that catalog up that's going to generate a lot of money. So what I found is that it's really good to do your research, and when you're doing these deals and talking to them about, okay, well, in terms of sync licensing, what do you guys have to offer? In terms of like songwriting camps, how often do they happen? Who are the other co-writers within the songwriting camp? All these things are important. It's not always just about a big check at the end of the day, because you
Yes.
might just get a big
Relationship.
check once. You might get a big check one time and never get a big check again.
Yeah.
So,
that's right.
Facts.
Never. And that's what I'm modeling. Piggyback off of that, what I'm modeling Pacific Music Publishing is more so deals that make sense, advances that make sense, and but at the end of the day, you're able to move through the deal and get through multiple deals and be able to be successful, because a lot of times publishers, now MDRCs, which is minimum delivery requirements, are out in these
Yes.
deals.
Thank
So now
God.
we're able to see free, and I have clients and people who got 500,000 10 years ago, but
yep,
still in a deal.
yep,
And you trying to navigate and make sure they can get to their next
That's right.
next option.
portion of their
Yep.
deal,
Yeah.
the next option. So,
Hmm.
so the way I'm doing it is we're gonna have A&Rs. We're gonna actually place. I'm negotiating a deal now with the sync company that handles sync. So we're wanting to make sure the creative is moving and not stagnant,
Yeah.
and
That's
continue
right.
to be successful. Because if we have happy producers and happy songwriters, we can have happier music. Maybe it
Hmm.
won't
Exactly.
be as crazy as it.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
in your company, you need happy clients tell other clients that could become
Mm-hmm.
your clients. It's very important,
Exactly.
That's
and
So
right.
you don't
true.
want to have you don't want to have that type of business that you operate where people say don't sign there because they just took my money and they didn't do anything else.
Yeah.
Because all it takes is one writer that has a hit record to say, "Oh, I love these guys," and that's enough for you to get 10, 15 more writers.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
That's right. That's right. So Prince, you started talking about MDRC, right? And I don't know if most people even know what that is. So let's talk about, right. And I mentioned CMO, and most people are like, I don't even know what that is. So
Yup. Yeah.
right. So
Dropping
let's
some
talk.
dropping some terms here. That's right.
Right. So let's talk about that. So what are some of the key publishing terms that people need to be aware of when navigating within this whole music publishing world?
Uh, Definitely MDRC. If it's in your deal, make sure you're negotiating something that's low, minimum delivery requirements. So the old agreements, the old publishing agreements, had these delivery requirements. So you would have an advance that you can recoup on, but if you did not meet the delivery requirements, meaning if the record didn't come out on a major label, if you didn't have a certain percentage in the record, it wouldn't count towards you getting and moving forward with your deal. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people were signing these deals because of the money, and then when they went back and looked at their paperwork, the minimum delivery requirement mean that they would have to have 35% in a record. The record would have to be on a major label, on a major artist, and then you have to do 10 of these.
Right.
What?
Right.
Yup, yup.
I'm
No
stuck for
specialty albums
35
or nothing.
years.
True
Yup,
story of my
Yeah, yeah.
life.
no
So,
specialty, no gospel album, no mixtape, no
no
None of
No
it.
playlist.
no
instrumentals.
It could be the
Right.
number one song in the world, and it won't count towards your deal because it wasn't released as a certain type of single, or if it was on a gospel album or some type of specialty release. That if it was like on an
Yep.
independent release, the independent album would have to go gold for it to count towards your NDR city.
But they still collecting your money though.
And
They
it's still
still
collecting
collecting
it.
your money.
Yep.
But it's not
Yep.
going towards your obligation. So you're sitting just making music, praying for a placement with the major,
Yep.
because the releases or the placements that you've gotten may have landed, on an indie project or whatever. So I'm just happy that is, becoming a thing of the past, because to me it is definitely a way to continue to enslave composers.
That's right.
Period.
Yeah, slave deals. That's
Exactly.
right.
Arch we call it archaic
Art.
Archaic. That's
paperwork.
right. That's right. And when you really look across the broad spectrum of some of the contracts and things like that, there are some things that are in that are archaic, that they still use, that people are like, well, why are we still using this? Like a sunset clause. Like, I don't know. Do people still use that? Um,
Yeah,
they may not, depending on the contract.
yeah,
But
I've seen like a
and,
lot of like indie labels do that type of stuff. Like a lot of them, like they'll
yeah.
use like
Indie
some of
label.
them
Yeah,
old agreements. Like, and I'm
Mhm.
looking at it, I'm like, oh man, they got you. Like it's over. Like
I think it's old
you
for
got
you.
50, they got 50% of it. They got 50. You going? You're not getting out of this.
That's right.
Like it's not much I can do to help you at this point.
Yo, so hey, speaking of that, because I think Tammy, you posted it on your Instagram about her, right?
Mhm.
And how that whole deal with her was just, that's so shady. What her label manager was able to do based upon something that may have been seen as old and archaic. Even something simple like in that whole thing about name and likeness. They have the exclusive rights to your name and likeness, and you don't, and
Yep.
they can do whatever they want to pretty much do with it.
Yep. Yep. Very,
So
very fortunate. I'm happy that it came out that way, because we need to have these types of conversations, not just not with the industry executives like us, but we need to have these types of conversations that span across social media, since that's where everyone is gravitating to, that is waking um, our creators up, and really helping them to realize that some of the older deals that they were in, or they could possibly still be in, is wanting them to kind of peel back and have some more conversations. Like, you know
hmm
what? I may need to see if I got something like this going on. Not only that, the dialogue with attorneys is important too, because the younger attorneys are now looking at the older contracts and they're like, oh, hell no. Like,
Right.
we want to be
that's right.
we want to set the new tone for how the new recording agreements, the new producer agreements look, so that we have our client, so that we retain our clients and keep our clients, because they know too that if you are an attorney and you put your producer in a bad deal, and that producer finds out a couple of years from now that you put them in that bad deal, they're
That's
not going
right.
to be your client anymore either. And let's just all be honest, music is not making the type of money that it used to make back in the day when we were going off of physical sales. It was a totally different game. The bulk of money was much bigger, and the pie was a lot larger to slice. So with that being said, these types of stories that I post is really to help educate and get the word out about some of these old deals, some of these old heads that are just doing, unethical, bad business practices, because we have to create more dialogue about this. You know why? Because there's 50,000 songs being released every day, which means that there's a whole pool of songwriters and producers and artists that are putting music out, getting involved in this industry, but don't understand the business.
Oh
That's
yeah,
right.
hundred
Oh yeah,
percent.
all day, all day. And it's like, you know what? I don't really want to understand the industry. I'm an artist. Let me just be an artist. I don't want to worry about all this other business stuff. And I've heard people say that. I don't want to worry about the business stuff, but then they get tied up in things like what we're seeing on social media: bad contracts, bad situations, bad managers, bad record label. And it's like, you know, and those things are now starting to come to light. And you go, oh, are you really quick to run and go get that record deal now, knowing that these type of things happen, or is the independent route
I remember,
probably the more lucrative way for you to go? Yeah, what's up, Prince?
I uh, I would say that to answer that point, I think you negotiate what you know and what you are at the table knowledge affords you to. So a lot of people go into these situations without knowing what they're actually negotiating. So I believe knowledge and reading and making sure you understand what it is when you go to the table to negotiate with major
Yeah.
companies or with publishing companies, you will get out of it what you need to get out of it. Because at the end of the day, I can't say that I've ever negotiated a bad deal because I came to the table with knowledge and was able to negotiate on behalf of a client, or I was the publisher that was getting the work, but I wanted to be fair and honest. So I wanted to make sure that the client was able to navigate through whatever deal that they were receiving so that they could be successful and not be in a cumbersome situation
Yeah.
that would have them say, why am I doing this? And
Yeah.
Mm,
this is their art that they love to do every day. So we have the responsibility as executives and as people with the knowledge to disseminate that to the people and to
Mhm.
the creators so they know how to get and be in situations that help them to move forward so that we get the art represents what they're trying to do and what we're trying to put.
So true.
So
So true.
Yes, sir. Get that man
that's
a round of
that's right.
applause.
Yeah,
Get
so
that man
that's
get that
that's
man a round. Come
that's
on, let's
right.
give him a
That's
round.
right. That's that's
Especially
that's
deep
so true.
responsibility. Yes.
So true. So true. So I mean, I have a whole bunch of other questions, but I've taken up enough time. Uh, so before we move to the Q&A, are there any other terms that you feel that they need to know? We talked about MDRC and what minimum delivery requirement is about. Is there anything else that you feel that they need to? I'm pointing over here like you can see them, but
in,
Uh,
in
it's a lot of.
perpetuity,
I mean, in the
in
publishing business,
perpetuity.
it's basically a big dictionary of like words that a lot of people, would look at and be like, "What does that mean?" Like control composition,
oh gosh,
things like,
archaic.
micro sync, online sync, which is basically the same thing. You got direct licensing, you got print, you got sheet music, which is basically
Yeah.
print royalties. It's a lot. It's a
Hmm.
lot,
Yeah.
and it can take some time to educate yourself on it. But pretty much in the publishing business, you're going to have your performance royalties, you're going to have your mechanical royalties, you're going to have your print royalties, and then you're going to have your sync, aka direct licensing. And that
Yes.
stuff, when you break that down, you got a whole bunch of terminology that can be a little bit too much for the creators. But if you learn about the four main types and where they
Basics.
come from,
Hmm.
the four basics, then you can put yourself in
That's
a
right.
good position in terms of knowing where your money is coming from and being able to make money in publishing.
That's right.
Yes. And
That's
I'll
right.
add to that too. I'll say ISRCs.
Yep.
Um, that word
Hmm.
is so loosely used, but a lot of people don't even know what it means. It means an international standard recording code. And that to me is like your social security number for your song. It is how your royalties are tracked. And I can go into the ISWC and why that's prevalent to the ISRC, but we don't have enough time. But as independents, because there's so many independents out releasing music. The ISRC code by far is so important, because that is how, as administrators, we're able to collect, globally for our clients. In addition to that, some record labels own their own ISRCs and some don't. They may use them, from whatever the distribution company, like a TuneCore or CD Baby, or DistroKid, issues them. And so that's also another discussion, is making sure, as a record label, especially if you have several different artists that are releasing under your independent imprint, you should own your ISRCs, period. You should own your
Totally,
own.
period. Yep,
Yeah.
and you can
That's
get them
right.
from the
No.
RIAA. Definitely get your own UPC codes, Universal
Yes.
Product Code. Basically, is basically like a barcode. You go buy some bananas in South America, you buy the same bananas in America. It's gonna have a barcode that it's
Yeah.
gonna show the company how much money those bananas made, and it's all
Exactly.
tied to the same product. So, that's definitely something you guys need to know as well. And then you got your IPI number, which is basically a public number that your PRO issues to you, which, if you don't know what it is, if somebody has the same name as Lamont
Nah.
Graves and
Yeah.
they gonna mess up the
That's
song, they
right.
go register this to public. I give the splits to somebody else's publisher. I don't do it myself. And their publisher goes and they register the song and says Lamont Graves, and then they find somebody that's a BMI writer, and I might be ASCAP. Then some
Yeah.
BMI guy is walking away with $35,000 of my money that should have went to me. So
Yeah.
your IPI number is very important for you guys to recognize, because it's almost like a public social security number for
Yeah.
you being a composer with your PRO.
That's right.
Absolutely.
You better know your IPI number.
Okay.
You can go straight to BMI. I'm a team BMI. So you can go right to BMI and search, and you can look up an artist, songwriter's IPI right on BMI. But you got to know exactly who it is that you're looking for, because
I
you're
remember
right,
back in
Lamont.
the day, the PROs used to issue the little cards, and you have
Yup,
your
back in the
name,
day.
your ID number with your IPI, and
Yup.
you were like,
Yeah.
official,
You be like,
know.
but
They
yeah,
used to
But
mail them out. Yep, they used to
these
mail them
days,
out. You get them right in the mail, and it felt like you was a part of like you had a black card or something when you got
exactly,
that. I heard all
exactly.
about that.
But
that's
now
right.
it's
right.
our responsibility, and it's the songwriter and producer's responsibility to know that number. I mean, it needs to be a part of your important, your master sheet in your phone with all your notes and your account numbers and stuff. It is just as important, for sure.
That's right. I'm an avid reader. People who have watched these panels, have watched my interviews and master classes, they know I'm an avid reader. So there's this book that I got a while ago. I'm gonna tell you what it is, so you can go read it if you are an avid reader. I went to go look it up because I don't have the book in up here. It's called The Plain and Simple Guide to Music Publishing. It's the 4th edition. It is written by a gentleman by the name of Randall D. Wixen, Wixen, and it's called The Plain and Simple Guide to Music Publishing. It's a great, oh gosh, it's a great book. He breaks down everything that they're saying right now in that book. Like,
Yeah, and I'm telling you, it's so important to educate yourself
That's right.
on this, because I remember my first client, Jalo Beats. He did his deal with Rock Nation many, many years ago, and I was responsible for the business, and I educated myself with a book called Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business. But, I ended up getting burnt in the business too, because I didn't know anything about it. And I said it wouldn't happen again to anybody else that I personally knew. So when he ended up getting his deal, I was responsible, and he actually ended up doing a lot better than other producers during that same era that he came up that had much bigger records than him. And, just his publishing has been able to put him in a space in real estate where, he's good for the rest of his life. His kids are good. All from music publishing, all from what we talk about today. So it's very important for you guys to really, really educate yourself on it, especially you producers, because if you're getting these big album placements, this is going to be where your bread and butter is at. And also you artists too, because artists are songwriters. Just because you go in the studio and you write a song and you forget about it and you go to perform it doesn't mean that song won't go platinum, and you might not have, you may have $1.2 million sitting out there in publishing for you to collect as well.
That's right. Perfect.
And then, and I, and this the publishing. I was a financial advisor before I came in music, so publishing to me is like a retirement plan. So if you think about that in terms of generational wealth, in terms of building something that is sustainable, that you can leverage in other areas of life, That's the way you have to look at publishing. And I guarantee you, if you think about it that way, when you sit down and you're doing your contracts and you're doing your split sheets, you will be intentional
Yeah,
about what you're doing, because
that's
this is
good.
for your children, your children's children, because I do catalog deals too. So this
That's
is
right.
I have a publishing company set up for my daughters with a trust. Come
Mm,
on. This is what
Yeah,
we're doing. We have to learn finance. This is
yeah,
our and education. This is part of why we are not where we need to be, is because we don't understand wealth and wealth building. And this is a part of it. We're in the where one day you can be broke and the next day you can be worth $3 million.
yep.
So we
Fact.
have to think about it and be intentional about the business that we're in and what we're doing, how we're planning for our future
mm,
children and whoever we're, wives and whatever. So, and building outside of just music.
that's right.
That's
Absolutely, man. I mean,
that's
that's
good.
Facts.
facts.
Look.
I mean, just think about it.
They
You got a
all get it
17
though.
year old kid right now. You got a 17-year-old kid right now, FL Studio, that's about to get a big placement, building intellectual property. They didn't have to go to a bank to get $100,000 for a loan to build and develop. They ain't got to pay no contractors. All they got is FL Studio. That song go number 1. They're a millionaire. That's how
Yeah,
important it is.
yeah,
That's like Prince said. I mean, it's intellectual property and something that'll pay you for the rest of your life. The people you'll be dealing with understand this. That's why they buy catalogs. That's why they want to sign you to deals and things of that nature, because
That's
they
right.
understood this many, many years ago. And it's time for you guys to understand it too, because you can be an independent producer today and get a number 1 record and walk away and have ownership of your copyright and leverage that into something later.
yeah.
That's right. That's right. Awesome stuff. So, look, like I said, y'all thought y'all knew about publishing, but they give it to you, the real ins and outs, the real stuff about publishing. Okay, so I've taken up. Okay, so let's get to the Q&A, and that's the most important part, of course, for for them to be able to ask all of you questions. So here we go. So drop your questions. What do you got? I know I started seeing questions, so ask away, and let's go. I'm waiting for them to type the question. So
Let me see.
let's go. Let's
Complication
ask.
is so much struggle, I believe, because we don't always understand the difference. Compositions and recording. Old Town Barry Gordy owned the name Jackson 5. That's why he changed
Hmm.
it Jackson.
Where the questions at? Where the
Yeah,
questions
throw
at?
those questions. Throw
Let's
those
go.
questions in there. Come on.
I mean, I know they asked, so I'm not going to scroll back up to find the questions. Just sorry. That's a
It might be bedtime. I don't know.
that's a
We
lot
have
of
different time zones here.
there's a lot of stuff in there. It might be bedtime. That's right.
Yeah.
Look, they may have no questions because you probably gave it all to them. So they like, boom,
Do
okay.
these same type
Now
do
go
these
ahead.
same type of ideas work for TV and film as well in terms of like ownership and copyright? Absolutely. If you get a so here's the thing about if you get something on TV and film, right? So basically, what that is considered is a sync license. All right. So in the music business, when you got your 2 copyrights, they require clearance. So let's say I'm Nike and I want to license out DJ B Chill's composition, right, or his sound recording. I gotta come and get clearance from you. So this same thing also pertains to TV and film licensing. That's why you have companies called music libraries that understand exactly what we just talked about, and they get you guys to sign up for their library. They build the relationships in sync. They get your stuff placed, and if somebody has $100,000 for you, they get 50% of it. Then they might get all of your publishing on the back end, and you might just get paid as a writer from your PRO. So all of this applies to TV and film as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, perfect. Anybody else?
Don't.
All right, here's the next one. Can you explain the difference between the following? For a composition, use the form PA. For a sound recording, use the form SR.
He's specifically talking about copyright. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
registering works, and we do this, here at our agency, we register copyrights daily for our clients. So usually, if you are the owner of the master of the sound recording that people can actually hear, then when you are registering those works with the Copyright Office, you're going to use the SR form of registration. Online is the ECO. You use ECO, and then they're going to walk you through the process of what type of form is this for, SR or PA. So the SR form SR means sound recording, and that's typically where the record labels actually register. Or if you're an indie label and you own all the rights to your masters, you would use that, and you have the ability to register it in bulk, up to 10 tracks for one fee. Now, on the PA side, that is the performing arts copyright, and that usually is where the composition lies. So songwriters and producers are registering their works using the PA form on the copyright website, um, for their works performing that actual composition of, writing the lyrics, writing the music. And so you want to be able to distinguish the two, because if you are a songwriter or a producer, they give you the option to be able to choose whether or not are these works published, are they unpublished. And a lot of times when songwriters and producers are, shopping records and not necessarily having a knowledge as to whether or not the song is going to get placed, it still makes sense to at least have the Form PA copyright already done and registered, just in case someone infringes upon those rights as a composer, because you're shopping the music. And a lot of people don't know that, but it's a great way to protect your music while you're in the process of shopping for placements. You don't have to do an SR, you do a PA because the work is unpublished, and you also are able to register as a composer. That shows you have ownership for that particular contribution. You don't necessarily have to have um, you know everything owned by you. So if there's an additional producer or a songwriter that you wrote, you can also list their names too as co-owners. But the main thing is, if you're shopping and you know that you're getting a lot of traction on those records, you want to make sure that they are registered with the Library of Congress, which then allows you to be able to sue. If you have to go into litigation, you're able to sue for the maximum, which is $150,000, on top of all of the damages, on top of, all of the royalties that could possibly be owed to you from the infringement. So I would definitely say for songwriters and producers to use the PA form, and for the which is the works of the performing arts, and then for the sound recording, that's mainly what the record label uses when they're registering the sound recording that will be released.
Perfect. Thank you, Tami.
You're welcome.
Next is, can I get a publishing deal as a film composer and songwriter?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, you can.
Still
All
at the
day.
end, you still got those two copyrights that are monetized. Like if you get something on a TV show and it's a popular TV show, you're gonna get paid performance royalties from it. But remember, PROs pay you as a writer and they pay you as a publisher. So if you make $100,000 as a writer, you might have another $100,000 as a publisher. But let's say that the song blows up as a result of the TV show. Like it's something has just happened. Something happened with the Stranger Things popular song from the '80s. This just happened with, but you never know. So if it's a license and it's non-exclusive, and that song ends up on, let's say, Spotify, then you're going to have publishing royalties that are going to be generated just because of the amount of attention that's going to be on that record from it being on TV. So absolutely, publishers love to do deals with people that are heavily into TV, film, and sync for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Good. Thank you. Next question. What resources did you use to build your sync relationships?
Oh man, for me, the way that I built my sync relationships was taking on producer clients, and actually when they didn't do deals, let's say we manage their catalog, the actual sync the supervisor had to come to us directly. So we did, we would just do good business. We would get it done. A lot of supervisors, they just wanted to be like this. Let's get it done, deal done. Do you agree to terms? You negotiate back and forth. You don't want to go back and forth too much. You just want to get it done. And when you make a good impression, they reach back out to you. Hey, this is what we're working on. This is a new series that I'm working on. Do you guys have anything, for us in that regard? So pretty much that's the way that I was able to build my relationships in sync. And oftentimes you'll have a music supervisor. They might work on like 8 different shows at one time. So then, you might be able to submit for different opportunities. And then sometimes, they take jobs with video games. Sometimes they work on movie trailers. So it all depends on the supervisor. But the way I was able to build my relationship was from working with producers, just because some of these guys would get a #1 record and they didn't have any publishing deal yet. So anytime that happens, then they come directly to you to license.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so to piggyback off of that, is, do you all suggest to register with non-exclusive music libraries from starting out for sync as a producer-songwriter, or targeting exclusive libraries instead?
Well, I don't know if Tammy you want to answer that, but I can tell you my feelings on that.
I would say if you're going to register with a non-exclusive library, make sure that you keep the terms short, and also make sure that you vet them, because a lot of times you have companies that are just starting off and they're welcoming all of these different catalogs and songs into their databases, but not all the time are they really able to work the records like they say they will. So if you vet them and they provide you with an opportunity, and you think it's something that you want to submit for, then cool. But just make sure that you are, not exclusively tying yourself to them without a guarantee of knowing what they have going on. Because you can vet them and you can have a good relationship or know them from somebody who referred you or whatever, but you just don't want your songs to actually be gridlocked into a situation and you can't even shop it elsewhere. Now, if it's exclusive, to me, that's more of a cultivated relationship where you know for sure you've worked with them several times, you know of their success or others' success, and you know that they have the capacity and the capability to be able to place records. They have direct relationships with these production companies, and or the music supervisors that they're collaborating with, and they also have interest in your work. Also, with non-exclusive sync deals, the percentages are not as aggressive, I've noticed. And then also with the exclusive deals, their percentages are pretty high because they're going to work the record mainly because they're also getting a high percentage of the ownership as well. So you want to be able to kind of look at what the terms are, but all in all, it's so many companies out here that are popping up saying that they help with sync licensing now. You really want to be careful and make sure you do your research for sure.
Exactly.
For
Exactly.
sure. For sure.
Exactly.
Research is key.
Yep.
Is key. Thank you for that. Next question. What software do you recommend to manage big catalogs?
Ooh.
Um,
Ooh.
that
It
sounds
depends.
like a. Go ahead,
It
Lamont.
depends. I mean, I'm hands on. Like I'm old school. I like to look at spreadsheets and everything like that. So to be honest with me, I'm looking at Excel spreadsheets. I got my docs and all that stuff. That's how I'm managing my catalog.
Google Drive is my best friend.
There you go. Google Drive, that as well. That's how I manage. I mean, they got software out there for it, but to be
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
honest with you,
Yeah.
like I just like the ease of just opening up an Excel spreadsheet. You know what I mean?
hmm
It just makes it very easy for me to separate whether somebody got paid from Sound Exchange,
hmm
whether or not they got paid their producer royalties. I
hmm
can, do a sum total of how much their royalties generated in a quarter, or within a year. It's just, and not only that, when I'm dealing with catalogs, when you deal with like catalog management, or like you're going to present a catalog to a third party investor, oftentimes, they're looking for that type of information as well, like a spreadsheet
yeah,
format. So that's how
yeah.
I do it.
Our company, the first thing we do before we even import into any of our royalty softwares, we always start on Excel. Excel is going to give us exactly what we need, like Lamont was saying. In addition to that, we love the fact that we can share our catalogs directly with our clients so that they know where their data is. They also are able to go in and manipulate the document, edit it if they need to, change, add songs and stuff if they just want to contribute to it. Because some of our songwriters and producers are very, they're tech savvy as well, and they may just send us a text message, email, or call the office and say, hey, I got a couple of singles that are dropping, but I went ahead and added it to the spreadsheet, or my assistant is going to add it. If you can make
Yeah.
sure that you get everything taken care of for us, so we meet
Mm.
our clients exactly where they are, and provide them the information that they can digest and see as well, so that they can see the work that we're doing behind the scenes before we start doing all the registrations and notating and notifying rather all of our pay sources,
Yep.
that we'll be collecting on their behalf. So
Yep.
same
Yep.
with
Right.
Lamont. Like I'm
Yep.
I'm
It's
all
yeah.
about.
Exactly like Tammy said. And once you get that
Mhm.
information, you can load that into like some management software and everything like that. But
Yep.
Excel is just
Right.
used all across the board from banking to everything else. So it's just so familiar for everybody.
Yes.
Somebody that may not be, let's say you're sending like a spreadsheet to a CPA. they might not have that royalty software. You know what I mean? But they
Yeah.
definitely have Excel, and you can send that to
Yep.
them, and then you can have everything itemized, and it just makes things a
A
lot
lot of
easier.
that.
So that's why I prefer.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I mean, and Excel is right there on your computer.
Yep.
So,
Right.
right. And so, since Excel is on your computer, it's easily usable, accessible right there. There are two that you could use if you wanted to use those things. So there's um, I know I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, but Repertoire, right? It's Repertoire, and then the other one is Curve Royalty Systems. Now they're gonna cost you though. Excel is free.
Yeah,
Re-
yeah. A
Rep-
lot of labels, like a lot of
Repertoire is like
labels,
$5,000.
publishers, yeah, a lot of labels use like Curve, and like a
Yeah.
lot of admins use it so that their users can, their clients can sign in. You know what I
Right.
mean? They'll sign in and they'll see like their statements, how much was generated and everything like
Right.
that. It's good for that. But just the managing of the actual catalog,
Mm-hmm.
Excel, I can't find anything better than Excel or Google
Yeah.
Docs.
Oh, Google Docs,
Like you said. Yep.
which is free.
Which is
That's
all
right.
free. by the way.
Got it.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love Google's Drive. I'm telling you, I use the
Oh, yeah.
sheet. We use the Google Docs, the Google Sheets. We use the PowerPoint compatible one. What is it called?
Yeah.
Slides.
Yeah,
Slides.
slides. Yep.
Everything.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, and all those are come right on your computer, so
There you go.
they free.
Or in
There you go.
in your Gmail actually.
Or in your Gmail. That's right.
You just
Like
have an email address with Google and
that's
you got a
free.
Gmail account, you got a Drive.
That's right. Okay, next question. Can you refer some companies that can collect publishing on behalf of the writer?
Oh, I mean, there's so many, like
All of us.
Tammy's company, my company.
There you go.
Here you go. Right here.
My
One, two,
guy Prince.
three.
You
Lamont,
can literally
Tammy.
use Song Trust. You can use Centric. You can use TuneCore. Like this stuff wasn't available way back in the day. Like,
Mhm.
you had to get an ad. You had to know somebody or actually have records that were actually moving in order to do this. But now so much is available to everybody that you can literally just affiliate with some type or register for a pub admin online. I like the personalized approach of having like companies and situations like we all have here because you actually can talk to somebody if you have an
Yes.
issue. You ain't got to wait on a phone call for 30 million years to be able to get an answer. And it's a lot easier to get business done that way. So I would recommend us. Shameless
Yes.
That's
plug
right.
there.
I would
Yes.
recommend all of you as well.
If you
That's right.
cannot pick up the phone and call someone,
Right.
and you can't get someone on the phone about your money, that is a problem to me.
That's right.
I don't care what anybody says. For our clients, we have open door policies. Anyone can call us. We have a marketing system as well. So if they're texting us, it'll notify them, that we'll get back with them when our office opens. But we always want to make sure that we stay connected to our clients and help them in every stage of their career, because that just helps them, for one, become empowered, have confidence in their team. And also, it makes you feel like you can sleep at night, because if you know that you've put songs or uploaded songs into a portal, but when something comes down to you actually getting paid on time, or maybe there's a discrepancy with one of your registrations and you got to wait 2 and 3 weeks for someone to, get back with you, that's a problem. I'm sorry.
Bad
That's
Yeah.
not
Oh,
professional
don't get
at
me
all.
started on the
Bad
hard
sign.
things. Don't get me started on submitting to your publisher and 4 months pass and then the song isn't registered, or you submit to your publisher and it's the #1 record and you go to check on it. It's not in your BMI. It's not anywhere in any system. And then by this time, so much time has passed and the publisher says, oh, we never got your splits, via email, even though you can forward
right.
it to them. But then you don't know that your rep at the pub quit the job or that they got fired. You know what I
Right.
mean? So all those things are very, very important.
That's right.
When choosing the right company to help you guys out.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And these are 3 great companies to help you accomplish what you're looking to accomplish from a publishing perspective. Okay, so we got a couple more minutes. There's a couple more questions in here. This is a 2-part question, so it's kind of long. What's the first step in creating your own music publishing company, and who would I build relationships with to help track down royalties, since there's a lot of admin work involved?
I can answer that, or somebody else.
Creating a publishing company is definitely just going to the Secretary of State, or to your attorney, or, establishing the company, getting an EIN number for the company, Then from there, setting up a bank account, those three things in that order, you know, reserving the name, basic just business, you know, just setting up the publishing company side.
That's right.
And it depends on what you want it to use, what you want to use it for. Like some people start publishing companies, like one similar like Tami, similar like what Prince had, and that's meant to manage a whole bunch of different songwriters and a whole bunch of different composers. But then sometimes you might just be your own publisher, meaning that you might get an LLC or some type of corporate entity,
Yep.
and you just might manage your own catalog. So it depends on what you want to do with your career and what your goals are. Like a lot of music production companies that sign producers, they have a publishing arm, and they'll have maybe like 10, 15 producers on their roster, and then they start a publishing company, and they might do a partnership of an LLC. So there might be like 3 owners of that actual company. But then sometimes it might just be you. But overall, the first step in the process is, figuring out if this is going to be just for you and what type of entity you want to have represent your catalog or manage your catalog.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'll ask these last questions that are currently in here. I still want to make sure I'm considerate of their time. I know their time is crucial. So next question is it important to have an ISNI number? I think is that what you're asking? ISNI or ISRC or
Does he mean the
IPI?
ISRC or ISWC?
So we'll get him to clarify what it means by ISNI. And so we'll come back and go to the next question. And so the next question is for an artist producer going sync and Spotify route regarding pro. Should you wait for music library to register your song or just register before you submit? Also, should you submit to both?
If it's a music library, they're going to want to register your songs themselves because more than likely they got their own publishing arm. And anytime you sign that song into their library, that library will be responsible for the registration of your titles because they know that you may not know what their publishing entity's name is, and then you might end up messing up the registration yourself. And then when they go to register it, then boom, you got a conflict, and now it's hard for anybody to get paid because then your PRO may not know which registration to pull from. So anytime you do those library deals, you always should leave it up to the library to actually register the songs themselves. Now, if you enter into a deal where in sync somebody gets 50-50 and they leave everything up to you, meaning a sync fee comes in, they say let's split the publishing 50-50, then that may be your responsibility at that point in time to register your 50% share. But if you're signing into a library, more than likely that library is going to be responsible for registering your title, just because they know that you may not know much.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Last two. Okay, let's go back to this one. So the question about the ISNI is the International Standard Name Identifier.
Yeah, so if you have an admin, you don't necessarily need to have an ISNI number, right? All you need is your IPI number. That is what's going to determine that your creative works are actually linked to that particular number so that you can get paid. Once money starts coming in, your ISWC will be activated through your PRO. So you'll see an ISWC that has a number. It has a code there. If you pull up any song registration on BMI, you'll see that if money has been generated, the ISWC will actually be added. And they're pulling that data that's coming in from your ISRC number, which is also routed to your account, which is your IPI number. So if you have an admin and you're collecting your publishing, that's basically what you need, is your IPI number. You don't necessarily need an ISNI number. It's not required.
All right. I think this probably is I think this is the last one. If they're not, I think there's one more. But we'll get to these last two and then we'll wrap it up. It says, when approaching a publisher for a deal, how should I package my EPK music catalog? Should it be in a Dropbox or Drive or a streamable version? Lamont, you muted yourself. There you go.
I'm going to keep it real with you. Most of them don't care about any of that at all. They looking at your song on a Hot 100. They seeing it going up the charts, and they'll reach out to you to try to do a deal. Sometimes if you got a manager that can take you to publishers, they're going to come there. They're going to let them know what songs you produce and what your percentages are. Then maybe an A&R at the publisher might take a look at your social media and say, oh, this guy's moving, this guy's doing this and this that. But the days of like EPKs and all that stuff and having drop boxes with music in it, a lot of that stuff, you know, if you sending music out to like a music library or if you're in a sync, a lot of times, like I would say startup music libraries will accept that type of stuff, but most major publishers don't really care about like EPKs and your music catalog, it being in like a sound format. You know, they're just looking at your placements and what the percentages are for the most part.
Yeah. Exactly. Because gone are the days where publishers would give money based upon talent and what music you had in a catalog. Now everything's black and white, what you have placed. We're looking at money pipeline, what you have collected so far, which determines your deal and what type of deal in terms of the money side that you would get. So it's definitely based on placements.
That's right.
Placing record.
And also, like, if you get randomly like contacted by like some admin companies, definitely do your research on them, because a lot of people start them and they just look at the charts and they see who's on there and they find out you might be some 18-year-old kid in your first placement. You may not know nothing about it. They come reach out to you and then you end up doing a deal that you regret. So these are things that you definitely got to be careful and mindful of, because companies will begin to reach out to you. But you want to make sure, like I said, that you know and do a little bit of research on that actual company and who are some of the writers that would be affiliated with it. Because you're not going to want to pitch yourself in some type of deal that you might regret. You might be in that deal for 5 years. Somebody offers you $10,000. You probably never seen $10,000 at one time in your life. And some producers, especially young guys, don't know the value of that particular song. So they're like, oh, $10,000. Oh, man, I can go crazy with this. But they don't know that if they just register the song themselves and entertain other deals, you know, they might have $50,000 coming in from their PRO. And then if you sign that $10,000 deal and it's a 50-50 copyright share, then pretty much all that income that could have went to you is pretty much going to go to that other company.
Good stuff. And the last question is, are you accepting new clients?
So we accept new clients all the time if you're coming in for music admin services. These are your a la carte services that you just need to get done. So if you're coming in saying, hey, I don't even know how to get started. I'm in the music industry. Well, I want to be in the music industry. I'm a new songwriter. Where do I go to get started? We offer a plethora of a la carte services to help get you started in to make sure that you're set up to collect before you even start receiving royalties. As for publishing admin clients, we do a thorough job of assessing where they are in their career. We also assess their royalties to see what is out there, because as being a creative also, I do, I take it serious when I'm working with clients and creators. We want to make sure that we're just not putting them in deals and there's nothing out there to collect. It makes no sense.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's the same for us. I mean, you can come to us and get your catalog cleaned up at any time. That's no problem. But in terms of like a long-term client, you know, if it's a producer and, you know, they just released an instrumental album, you know, we don't want to make any false promises to anybody. You know what I mean? So we just want to be able to be honest about any relationship that we enter into. But if you come to us and you're like, hey, I got this instrumental album and I want to make sure I'm getting all my royalties from it, you know, it's definitely something that we can assist you with. So just like how Tami said, you know, we do an analysis of the catalog just to make sure it's something worth it for everybody. And then how we do is like we'll have a couple of conversations to get to know people. I'm personally big on energy, and I don't just personally take on every client, because once you do that, sometimes people expect you to, you know, you can't even have family time sometimes with certain clients. You know what I mean? So you got to be careful. Yeah. You got to get to know people. Because otherwise your phone will be ringing all day long, and sometimes you got to know when to be able to say enough is enough. So we like to actually, cut it off. We like to have conversations, get to know people, and it's worked tremendously well for us. Like I said, I'm personally big on energy. It hasn't steered us wrong yet.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much the same here from the management standpoint. You know, I've stopped managing. I just have a certain amount of clients that I continue to work with. Probably about 5 producers, a songwriter. I have Lyrica Anderson. So with that, I'm definitely about energy. And I've actually gotten rid of clients, you know what I'm saying, just because I just don't want I just don't have time to go back and forth and tussle with people who don't listen or who don't
Yeah.
want to, you know, do what they need to do. So for me, I'm a business person, so everything has to make sense on the bottom line as well. From the publishing standpoint, with the publishing company, we're looking at clients. I'm about to sign my first two deals. We're looking for actively looking, and we're doing advances. We're doing co-publishing deals. We're doing admin deals. So I'm fully underwritten. So I'm definitely looking for dope talent that have placements, that have not entered into a publishing situation, and would like to be in a situation that would be beneficial to them. You know, I'm here, and we're getting ready to open offices, and I'll be in LA, Atlanta, but Atlanta be the hub because I'm from Atlanta and it's my city. So, you know,
That's right.
But definitely looking for dope people. So definitely.
That's right. Look, Prince, I can't wait. I can't wait for the office opening. You know what I'm saying? So.
Oh yeah.
That's
I'm gonna
awesome.
do something. I'm gonna do something.
Oh
Kinda
yeah.
cool.
Sure. Sure. I'm
Congrats,
saying.
man. Congrats.
That's right.
Thank you.
I'm saying that so I
We
can
need an invite, Prince.
I can get one of them invites. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be
Yes.
somebody definitely putting it on and
Oh, yeah.
making
For
sure
sure.
it looks sexy and good. And
right.
I'm all
That's
about
right.
looking good while doing this. Most of the publishers, they're not the people you want to hang out with and kick it with. But I'm trying to be that guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like we don't have to be
cool
nerds. We don't have
Yeah,
to
you
be,
don't have
That's
to
right.
be.
like these crumpy old dudes walk.
And that's
We're
so
fly. We fly. We look good. We do our thing, and we help people, and that's what it's about.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Look, I'm gonna tell you. Every time I see Prince is dressed to the nines, like for every time. Tammy's the same way, right? We was at the event last night. Tammy's dressed to the nines. Everybody in there. Now, not everybody in there was dressed to the nines though, but
Right.
Tammy was.
This is Atlanta, right? And we are in Atlanta. We live here. We love the balance
That's right.
of home and in work life. We have I have a very great. It reminds me of LA, how there's just a lot of balance with work and being able to have some little leisure time with family and stuff. Because there's just so much to do in Atlanta. But at the end of the day, I was always taught, you dress how you want to be addressed. So when you're doing business and you're having, professional conversations with people who may need your services, or it may be, something that, we're trying to work on, like a partnership or anything like that, I always want to come and look my best, to show that I have intention and I am actually putting in effort to come, the way I want to be addressed, professionally and well respected. So,
That's right.
and I mean, like I said, we in Atlanta, so it is what it is. You gotta, you have to make sure you stand out.
And you got to
That's
set
right.
yourself aside, when I came in the music industry, I was an investor and I wore suits everywhere. I wore suits in the studio with my client, with my artists. I wore suits. I wore, what I'm saying? Like I didn't own a pair of jeans, but I had to get some attire because they thought I was an alphabet boy. So I had to get situated and build up my gear because, I'm used to dealing with, high net worth individuals and going in and talking and expressing. Because first of all, I was young. I was 25, so I had to be ahead of the curve and show that the knowledge I had was beyond my years in terms of me handling their money. So
So
that's how I feel.
I am going to say something about that, right? It's not even just that you're young, right? If I can say this, because I've had situations being someone that has worked with a lot of different Fortune 100 companies and coaching Fortune 100 executives. You're dressing the part, looking immaculate. But I can tell you, as I was Prince, I was around 25, the same situation. But I always had to stay ahead of the curve because I was young, and I'm gonna say it, and because I was black. I always,
Right.
I'm not afraid to say it. I've always had to stay ahead of the curve in that manner, so that I could be seen and deemed and addressed in that professional manner.
Right.
And I know for a lot of young black professionals, that is something that impacts them as a whole as well. So like I said, I'm gonna say it. Y'all. I say a whole lot of stuff on this show that I probably shouldn't say, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Okay, so as Prince is dialing back in, I'm gonna have Tami and Lamont give their last words to you, their last piece of advice to you, and I would like for them to kind of drop their Instagram, their company, so that you can follow them and learn more about what they're doing for each of their organizations.
Cool. Tammy first.
Tami
Okay,
first.
thank you, Lamont.
No
So I'm
problem.
on Instagram at Tami Latrell, TamiLatrell on all social media. And the company, the Mezzo agency, is also the Mezzo agency on all social media as well. Our website is mezzoagency.com. We're currently getting it upgraded right now. So what you're seeing is a temporary site. It is there, but we are working on getting our new website launched by top of July. And so, but you guys are more than welcome to go to mezzoagency.com/contact, and you can schedule a free music business assessment with any of our music administrators here at the office. We are located in Atlanta, Georgia, in Buckhead, if any of you would like to swing by, but we always ask that you have an appointment just because for COVID protocols, we're still just trying to operate under, precautions because COVID is still going around. So we would like to have an appointment with you, or you can do a free music business assessment via Zoom.
Awesome.
And
And
wait,
you
Lamont, before
guys
you
can reach me, Lamont
Lamont,
Graves.
Lamont, before you go,
At Lamont_Graves.
Lamont,
No, I'm sorry, go
before,
ahead. Yeah.
no, yeah, before you go, Tami, is there any piece of advice that you would want to give, or last words you would want to share with those who are in attendance?
Mind the business that pays you.
Mm.
I mean, it's kind of cliche, but it's
Yeah.
true. Like, if you are trying to be in this music business as a creative, we're not in the days anymore where you can just be creative. You have to be able to comprehend a little bit of business knowledge and take it serious. If you're trying to have some type of, success and longevity in the business, it doesn't mean that we're requiring you to be an admin like us or publisher like us, nor do we expect you to be an attorney or anything like that, or an executive, but you still need to do some research and really, make sure that you educate yourself on the basics of publishing. So I would say mind the business that pays you. If you're trying to be in this business and you're trying to make money, you need to pay attention to what is really going on.
100% factual.
Yes.
Cool. And then you guys can find me on Instagram at Lamont_Graves. You can follow the Graves firm, which is basically my company that manages and monetizes catalogs and pretty much we help artists and songwriters and producers figure this stuff out. That's at thegravesfirm.com. If you're interested in a consultation or submitting your catalog, you can visit gravesfirmsession.com. Just fill out the form, let us know what's going on with you, and we can set up a call.
Perfect. Lamont, same thing. Any last words or piece of advice you would want to give?
Oh yeah, definitely. So what I always tell the community is that I know that some people here today probably aren't in the best place in terms of their career. And you're probably questioning whether or not you can do this. I'm here to tell you that it's definitely 100% possible for you. What you will learn is that the more that you educate yourself on the business, the more doors open up for you. Because a well-educated producer and a songwriter is one that has a lot of leverage. So pretty much everything you learned here today, I wouldn't call it the tip of the iceberg, but it's definitely important. And the more you learn about this and the more you educate yourself about it, the more you have leverage when you go into deals, the more people that are going to respect you when you go into these conversations with the people that do put these things together.
That's right. Good stuff. Thank you. And now to Prince.
Yes.
Prince.
Definitely. We have Pacific Music Inc.com. The website is being built out. Actually, that's the management company and consulting side. The publishing company is actually moving faster than everything concerning the publishing company, including signing people. So we're moving at a fast rate, but we will be having a website. We will have a website coming, Pacific Music Publishing. You can reach out to me, publishing_guru on Instagram. If you need to email me, pacificmusicinc@gmail.com. Usually I'm available, my assistant, we'll get back to you, or we can set up Zoom or meet in person. But I'm always on the move, so I don't like to sit in the office and sit still. So I'm always with my clients, always working on placements and doing other things. So feel free. I look forward to, helping as many people as I can. That's what this is all about. And my thing is just be consistent with anything that you do.
Oh yeah.
I didn't get here by not consistently doing the same thing over a period of time. The more you stay consistent, no matter what trials or things you may run up against, just know that you can always figure it out, and just continue to dig at it, and continue to get more knowledge, and continue to put people around you that can give you more knowledge than what you already know, because that's the key. I put people around me, and I've had people around me that knew more than me, and that's how I learned. And it's the same way. It doesn't go any different for the creator. Just keep going.
That's right. That's right. Well, good. Thank you. Let's give it up for all of them. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the panel. That's it right there. So it was great. It was awesome. Once again, I'm thankful for having Prince and Tami and Lamont here to share music publishing with you. Like I said, I know their time is critical, is crucial for them. So thank you very much, Prince, Tami, and Lamont. I won't keep you any longer. I'll let you get back to the things that you need to do. Greatly appreciate it. And have a fabulous evening. Once again, thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
All right,
Bye.
everybody. All right, everybody. Take it
Definitely
easy.
great.
Thank you.
Respect. Definitely.
Thank you.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, wow. Oh gosh, what I tell you, right? You got all you need to know about music. What is more, right? But they gave you the ins and outs of what music publishing truly is. Now there's many more things to go learn and to grasp as well. But thank all of you for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you haven't, subscribe right now. These are the type of things that we're bringing to the music creators. We have another one coming up in August. That is going to be on the music business. I'm confirming panelists right now. So you want to know the ins and outs of the music business? Be prepared for that. I'll communicate dates here on our Instagram very shortly. But once again, thank you for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. And y'all have a great night. So, peace.